So if you can, in chat, give me a little bit of backstory on it. Because on Tropicals, it was obvious what we were talking about. We were talking about a portfolio site. This is an open source learning. So let me know a little bit about it in chat as I just immediately start talking about stuff. For those of you following along in chat, the link is posted up again, cultxp.com. And again, feel free to post your opinions on what's happening as long as you abide by the guidelines to be constructive and to be kind. So let's take a look at this, cultxp.com. All right, off the bat, I'm getting a nice professional, clean look to it. So we're gonna be nitpicky on yours because it's going to be the details that we're gonna separate this design from where it is to where it can be better. But at a glance, it's already head and shoulders above a lot of open source stuff that I've seen. I would say that the logo is a little bit small. So what I like to do with logos in the home, well, it is important, Ducky. Otherwise, you wouldn't have posted the link in chat. So I just want to gain more information about what you're trying to do with it. So just post whatever you want in chat. I'm going to talk about the visuals, but I like talking about flow and stuff like that too. But everything that we're talking about in chat today is important, even if it's just a side project. So looking into it, let's see. We've got a logo, which I do think, like I said, is a little bit small on the small side. Let's go to about here, and let's take a look at that logo. I think we're going to increase the font size a little bit on it. Where is the bugger? There he is. All right. Got navigation, nav. Got a div in here, and then the anchor. Oops, I clicked it. Everyone. All right, we have an anchor. Let's see. Font weight's bold. That's fine. Font size 2 rem. I don't know, something around 2 rem. And the reason I like for logos to be on the bigger side, on the chunkier side, not too big, mind you, but just bigger, is I want a user, when they hit a URL, they need to immediately know that they're in the right place. So if you give a URL to someone that's cultxp.com, they should immediately know when they land on it that they're in the right place. It feels a little bit weird, right? Like they should just trust that, but we're not trustworthy creatures, or we don't trust easily. So around that size, you might be able to make it go a little bit bigger than that, but I think that's a good starting point. And I do think that we're getting a little cluttered over here on the right-hand side. And navigation is very, very important, so we want to make sure that that's an easy thing for people to find. And the fact that we had to sign in the register and it's below the main navigation, this is feeling a little bit cluttered. So let's take a look at it. Let's see what we can do to fix that. All right, so we've got justify content space between on the nav. I think that's the way to go. Let's see. So we've got our navigation inside this div over here. Each of them are anchors. I think we can up the width on this a little bit. We don't want it to be like a full-on like flex grow type situation. So we'll do width or max width of 600. Come on, Flex, take over for me. Where am I missing the Flex stuff? Justify content display Flex. That's automatically going to size it based on its content. And then inside of that, this should be, I guess it's a max width. It's not, okay, yeah. So let's do width of, maybe make it width of 50 VW and then a max width of 600 pixels. And then these are going to want to be, since we're doing, I assume, a flex on this. We're not. Okay, so we can actually display flex on that, and then justify content flex end, and that's going to anchor to that right-hand side. So we keep that kind of similar to where it was, but things that we get out of doing it this way are that we've got a little bit more space, and then we can actually do this. Maybe instead of flex end, we do space between, and we bring our max width down. So again, we could do what we did on Tropicals, and we could do a flex end and do margins, or we could do max width of some sort and justify content space between. Either way is perfectly fine. I usually end up going with margins just because justify content ends up making me put more widths around than I really want to. Because actually you don't even need all this if we were to do it via display flex and flex end and margins. And each of our list items are our anchors, whatever we've got down here. We've got a margin on the right-hand side already, so, you know, a little bit more spacing might be nice. Good job with, I think you got a last child on here somewhere. That's good. Yep. And then each of these looks good. I would say that your active state or your hover state there isn't quite enough of a change to really anchor in the fact that I'm hovering. It's close. Let's see what we're going to. We're going between a light gray. Oh, we've got a little blue mixed in. I like that. Nice cool gray happening. And then when we activate our hover state, we're going darker. So we've got a dark blue already, and that's in your color palette. Something along those lines, maybe. I think that it's still not much, and it might be that you want to maybe come to your red from that gray, that this accent color you've got already here. I think that might be nice. Just something to give it a lot of a harder idea that we're hovering. Let's see. This idea is senior dev interested in working with a junior can post open source issues, projects. Ooh, single use mentorship deal. That's kind of cool. The senior gets an item checked off their list, and the junior gets real world experience. That's a really cool project. I dig on that so hard. So I think that's really something that can be very important going forward. So thank you for building something like this. I think it's a cool idea. One thing I would say is, with that in mind, your secondary item down here, right, the sign in register, actually should probably go above the rest of the stuff. So let me see if I can make this. This is going to break horribly, so keep that in mind. But I kind of wish it were, where can I put it? Drop it there. Up there, and then obviously we got this white thing happening. Don't worry about that. Like, that's just me messing with stuff. But the idea can be that this, where'd it go? Where'd you go, my friend? There we go. We can also make it bigger and make these more button-y style. So we could come in, have these be, do we have a cloud? See, we're using front-end framework, so it means it's a little bit hard for me to do, but we got this. So we'll do font size 1.5 rem, too big, somewhere around that. And we're gonna make it a button style, so we're gonna put like a border around it, solid, var. Ooh, that's kind of fun that we have this in here now. Display is gonna be inline block for now, unless you're using those new properties we talked about earlier. And we're gonna add some padding. 1 rem, too much. Maybe 0.25 top and bottom, 1 rem left and right. Just to give it kind of a buttony style, make them feel more like buttons. And then what you would do is one of these would be a hollow button and one would be a filled in button. Whichever one you want to be the most obvious on the page gets your filled in button. Whichever one you want to be less obvious gets your hollow button. I think this ends up feeling pretty nice, that you can like very easily call it out. Obviously you'll need to adjust this to center them and have them both be button styles. Again, giving like a sense of hierarchy, or they can just become items at the end of your navigation. I think that'd be fine too. I love the visual weight of guided open source learning. I think it pulls enough focus that I don't get anchored to the right hand side here. I do think that your font color on this gray background is a little bit on the light side. Let's see. Oh, come on, Chrome. Where's my accessibility tooling? This should be showing me if this is an acceptable score on accessibility guidelines. It is not. I wonder why that is. Interesting. But I think it's too light, so you might want to go with your darker variable here. Also, y'all, I love that the two people we've had come in and do these design reviews today have both been using CSS variables. CSS custom properties are the hotness. I appreciate that y'all are using it. I think that's super awesome. So kudos on all that. And then you have a button style already down here. I do think that you need a little bit more air inside of it. It's a little tight top and bottom for this kind of style. So interestingly, let's see, turn off messages. I was suggesting 0.25 rem up above, but for like an actual button on page, I think you want to be a little bit chunkier than that. So, you know, somewhere around here somewhere just shy of 1 rem in top and bottom padding, maybe 2.5 rem for your left and right. You're growing it on hover. That's a fun little interaction. You've got drop shadow coming in. I like that. I almost still wish that you had a color change happening on hover. It's almost a little bit too subtle there, but just something to think about. Maybe going with a slightly darker red for that button on hover. This is still feeling a little light to me. I think we can probably, I gotta move a cat. There we go. I think it's coming in a little bit too light. So we can probably increase the font size and take care of that. I know that this is not the right class to put that on, but we'll say it's probably around 1 rem right now, right? So just a little bit more. I think your line height, and this is one of the first times I think I might ever say this on stream, I think your line height might be slightly too big. So just a little bit tighter on that. But even there, I think that's kind of grouping together nicely. I do think that currently we've got a little too much spacing in between guided open learning and the paragraph as compared to the paragraph and the button beneath it. So I would like to see these either be completely equal spacing, right? Equal spacing top and bottom, or I'd rather see your paragraph tighter to your headline and further from the button, because they're two different types of content, right? So we group the content we want the user to read, and then we give a little extra spacing and group the next piece of content, which is the button to consume. I like that you got this back and forth. I think that's super cool. When you're feeling saucy about it, I might look at making this actual content on the page, because you are missing an opportunity for some SEO there to have this baked into the image as opposed to being content on the page. And also that makes it a little harder on screen readers to understand what's going on. Also make sure that you've got an alt tag on that. Hey, thanks for tuning in, James. And we'll see you in like, I don't know, 30 minutes or so when we wrap up looking at Ducky's design here. We'll head on over and raid your stream there. So yeah, I like this design. I think this design's super cool. Maybe look at moving it into text, or having maybe the images and the bullet points be an image and then that be text on top of it. It's on the list refactor. Perfect. Yeah. Just again, when you're feeling saucy, at the very least, add an alt tag on this, add an alt attribute, and put this text inside of it. That'll make it so that Google can read it. It'll make it accessible to a screen reader and all that. Down here, I like what you're doing here with this right aligned text versus the left aligned text. Same feedback on this paragraph text as the paragraph text above. Let's make it a little bit bigger and a little bit darker. I'm a designer and I love low contrast text. I think it looks nice, but it's almost always going to be not good accessibility. Even if it completely hits your accessibility guidelines, it might not be great. I'm getting older. It's a little bit on the small side for me. Font size 1.25 rem. Whoops, just a little bit, about that size. And again, make sure your line height is in M's associated with that. And then on these, I don't think your paragraph style has enough, what are you doing to me, Chrome? Has enough space in between each paragraph. So I think you're gonna wanna come in and add a margin to the bottom that's bigger than 0.5 rem to each of these. Let's see. Yeah, I think a full rem more than you've currently got it. I think that ends up reading a little bit easier. It's more scannable. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, and I made this mistake by putting it as an element style here, I actually kind of like the idea of having like the first paragraph be a little bit bigger, and then the following ones be that smaller, and then maybe make sure that your first graph there is loaded with the information that you want the user to know about it. Check out the project board. That's cool. I do think, I think we want our kind of a side here to maybe line up with our H3. I'm not 100% sold on that. Let me take a look at that real fast. No, your instincts were right on that. Bringing it down here is a good idea. One thing that you could potentially do is use something like grid and do align items baseline, and then that way the two baselines match up. But I think this is probably the right call on where to place that there. Again, same thing here. And again, this is the first for me on stream. Line heights are a little bit big. So I would tone down the line height a little bit. Let's see, where was it? Looks like that's probably about like 1.6 M if I'm guessing. Yeah. Oops. Line height 1.6 M. It's actually more than 1.6 M, probably 1.7. I would bring that on down to like 1.4, make that a little tighter. And again, make your buttons a little bit bigger, maybe even around the corners of them, because you have all these circle icons. Having these hard edges doesn't feel quite right on it. So having a border radius on it will soften them a little bit. And one thing is that you're kind of selling people here with mentorship. You need to have a little softness to it, because you don't want people to think of mentorship as this kind of hard edge. So the feeling that you kind of want to convey, and you're doing an excellent job of it up here, is a little softer edge. Even your font, even though it's not like a bubble font of any sort, is a softer font. So I think that's good. You've got circles in play, which I think is great. So just make sure your button style is bring in border radius to it, make that softer. I actually love the angle you've got going on here for your background. You might also think about doing that as a gentle curve, depending on how far you want to go down that rabbit hole. It doesn't even have to be much, just like gently curve it. That could be nice. I like the asymmetry. It leads the user to the right-hand side, but maybe make it be an asymmetric slight curve. Let's take a look at the project board. Okay, available projects. You can add a project, top right. I might give a descriptor for what we're talking about here. So in between available projects and below, have a little card that says, this is the projects that are open. Maybe give it 2 sentences to let new people figure out what's going on a little bit easier. And then I would look at doing a grid of some sort on these, because they're a little bit wide. You're having some line length readability issues there. And we can relatively easily fix that with a grid style. Hey Gwoon, welcome to the stream. Welcome back. I appreciate you being here as always. We're doing some more design reviews today. So we're going to say grid template columns, and we're going to set it at a repeat of auto fit, min max 320 pixels, 1FR, and then a grid gap of 1 rem, a little bit more. And this way you get a nice grid out of it. It's centered in this column. You get a little bit more data density out of it potentially. These are pretty long in the descriptions, but they are user-generated content, so that's something to keep an eye on. Locked screen. All right. I do think that your card style could use a little bit more differentiation between the white of it and the white background, whether you go with the grid style or not. And that's going to be changing this box shadow, probably raising the opacity of it just a little bit. Let me find the right value there. Not too far, right? Oops. I broke it. All right, refresh the page. We lose the grid, but at least we get the card style back. Let's see. On the UL, that's the UL inside. I tried to get rid of the cat, and she is back. All right, here's the LI. There we go. All right, so let's bring, this was, I think I was saying 0.2, and then that might be too harsh, but just bring it up just a little bit, and then play with that spread on the hover state. And then I would also look at having that be, actually, let's also, I kind of want to see the top edge, right? Just a little bit. Oh, that's the spread. Let's see. I want that top edge to be a little bit more defined. It makes it a little bit easier to tell where things begin and end. And so it might even be that we don't need to increase the color. We might just adjust our Y value and make sure that I can always see that. And then the hover state, obviously you'll have to adjust that too, so it doesn't pop like that. But just to make it so it's a little bit easier to catch those details there. Oh, you should just, what's more valuable? Design feedback on Twitch or school? Probably school, but I'm glad that you're here. I appreciate it. Ooh, contribute to cult. Okay. I like this graphic. That's a nice graphic. Let's see. I might look at centering the text on the left-hand side and the image on the right. And let's see how we can do that real fast. Light gray border would be fine. Like I go back and forth whether I want box shadows or borders. Like it seriously depends on the day and my mood, whether or not I go for a box shadow or a border. But yeah, I err on the side of borders typically, but that's just, I like boxes. It's kind of been my go-to aesthetic for years, and I'm old, so it's kind of sometimes hard to deal with at that point. All right, so we got Flex 1. The data inside this, we can make it flex, flex direction, column, justify content center. So center that, make your H1 probably have a smaller, make these have less space in between them. Something along that line, and then make this a bigger font size, contribute to cult. Our H1, something along those lines. It sections this out a little bit nicer. I might even put a little bit more space between this and the next section, and maybe bring that same call to action you got on the home page to this section as well. Margin bottom, maybe not. It's already pretty big. Maybe just a little bit more. And then you've got grid style down here. This grid style is nice. Again, just like some of the feedback from earlier, maybe tighten up the spacing in between each of these. So have your H3 have a little bit less on the bottom margin. And they group together a little bit stronger at that point. And I might also bring up the font size for the how you can help. It'll draw the focus down here a little bit quicker, which can be handy. So let's take an overall look at the context there. Contribute to cult. I would again maybe put a call to action here, and then how you can help. And then each of these might take a link. You've already got a link here, which is nice. Make sure each one kind of feels actionable, right? So like put a link to the project board here. You've got the Patreon link here. Spread the word. Maybe put, I don't know. There might not be an action for that, but the other three at least should have an action associated with them. You've got it on 2. Let's make sure you've got it on the 3rd one as well. We've got a nice simple footer. Nothing wrong with that. Probably don't need much more than that in the current stage. Contact form. I don't mind this 2-column layout, but I feel like a centered column is probably going to be a little bit more beneficial to you. And again, paragraph styling that we talked about earlier might also might also be beneficial there. Cool. Oh, you got the first version. Goon, you got the first version of the box shadow generator out. Where's the link? Post the link in chat. But yeah, Ducky, I think this is all looking really, really nice. I think it's exactly where it kind of should be for its current stage. So just a few tweaks to make it to lead the user's eye a little bit better. Let's talk about maybe a sign in, register button as opposed to just the links up there. Yeah, overall it's looking really, really nice.